Neil, you don't have to turn your camera. I appreciate you joining early. I'm just getting in here early myself. So,
Hey Tom, sorry about that. I went to grab a charger.
that's all good. I joined early, just my paranoia about technology that something will go wrong, and then
That's
the
fair.
people who are supposed to be, so I'm streaming it too, which I'll tell
Oh,
everyone,
cool.
but like whether they can see it, and it's funny, I forgot you were on, and I was making notes, and I jumped when you,
Sorry about that.
it's okay. It's funny. I'm not sure how I say your name.
It's Thais.
Thais. There you go. Okay, so I wasn't far off.
No, you're close.
There was a head fake in the previous meeting because there's a woman named Kali, and I have friends named that. And, I've said Callie, and she said, oh, it's Kali. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Um, I thought that Cali was the universal. Of course, I'm in California, so it's easier to say Cali for short. But where are you, Thais? Are you in the East Coast? You're in Florida, maybe?
No, I'm actually in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Okay.
Yeah.
SoCal. Okay. I do some rowing in my spare time, and there's a bunch of people who went to UCSD. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Wonder if I know any.
I don't know. Last names is a funny thing. So
Hmm.
Ryan Newbury, maybe.
I don't know. Sounds familiar, but can't
They're
really
20
think of.
something, so they're yeah.
Okay. Little younger than me, but
Okay. So I didn't mean
um.
to
Oh no.
probe for age. Everyone's younger than
Um.
me, so if that makes you feel any better.
Do you row with Chase?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Chase is really good friends with my husband.
Oh, funny. Okay. He invited me up to Petaluma to row up there. I haven't rowed on that river yet. So I think we're going to row a quad because I scull too.
Nice.
In early June, we're going to go up and do
Cool.
a four-person quad. So small world.
Awesome.
And Neil, where are you? I'm in San Francisco.
Very cool. I'm in New York,
New York. Okay. What part of New York?
Scarsdale in Westchester.
Got it. Okay. I said, it doesn't look like you're in a New York apartment. So,
Yeah, no, no. Soon though, August, I think.
okay. Oh, now you're going to move into the city, huh?
Yeah, I lived there for 2 years, from 2021, technically till 2023. Um, it was nice. I was up in Harlem, so it was a little
Do
less
grad
urban
school at
there.
Columbia or something? Or,
No, I was in the CUNY School of Medicine combined med program.
oh, wow.
Um,
Nice.
and they're like right above Columbia. It's funny, my sister just got into Barnard yesterday.
Oh,
So we've been discussing all that and stuff.
congrats. My wife grew up on 100th and Central Park West. So,
Oh, nice.
I'm
That's a nice
somewhat
area.
familiar with the Upper West Side. Yeah, it is now.
Yeah.
Well, when I first started dating, it was still a bit transitional. The
Yeah.
public housing is right across the street, so it's not.
Hmm.
It's and right next to the police station. So
I mean, there's a little bit of security there.
yeah, no, it doesn't ever it had never felt threatening. So
That's good.
Angelo,
Hi, how's it going?
yeah, well, how are you? Thanks for joining.
Doing well. Yeah,
We're just
thank
sort
you.
of yeah, we're just kind of in We're starting officially at 3 Pacific. I'm not sure where are you on the West Coast, Angelo? No, you're Chicago.
Yeah, I'm originally from California, but I live in Chicago now.
Okay. Is it starting to warm up? I did some work there last fall and it was beautiful, but winter seemed pretty punishing. So,
I wish it would warm up a little quicker, but it's still in the 50s here. So,
oof,
we got probably like another month of this like on and off, on again, a warm day here or there, and then it'll be 40 degrees in the morning, and then you'll get off work and it's 75, and you're just like, what the heck is going on?
just also a bit like, were you in NorCal when you were in California? Or
Right, I'm sorry, for
did
when?
did you say you were in California before?
Yeah, I'm originally from Tracy, so about
Okay,
Central
sure. Yeah,
California. Yeah, but I went to
yeah.
school in Sonoma, so been all
Okay,
over Northern California.
nice. It's hotter out there though. I'm on the coast, or well, San Francisco itself. So
Definitely, definitely.
we're starting to. Everybody's so punctual. I love it. Thank you. Hey, Tyra, I'm Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Nice to meet you. Where are you dialing in from or joining from?
San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco. Okay, same. I'm in Dogpatch. Where are you?
I go to USF, so
Oh, okay. Nice. Hey, Grace.
Hello.
We go. Oh, is that the New Zealand accent? Are you the one who went to FanFest in New Zealand or?
No, I'm Australian.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. Where are you? Are you in America now or?
Yeah, I also go to USF with Tara.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay. We did an internship program with them for a number of years through the business school. So we had students coming through from all over the world. There was a guy from Kyrgyzstan at some point. So what are you studying?
I study public health.
Okay. Will you go back to Australia when you're done, do you think? Or
I don't know. I'm hoping to play soccer professionally, so kind of
ooh,
wherever
okay.
I up.
I went to my first women's game a year ago or so, just after the Open. So and I've been to the men's in San Jose as well. And I think there were more fans at the women's game.
Yeah, it's become a real big business recently.
Hmm. What position do you play?
I'm a goalkeeper.
Okay. That's a tough position.
Here and there.
All right, here's Maria. I have to look my usually did Trina. Trina joined last time. Most of you have met Trina at some point. I don't know if she's going to join. Hi, Maria. Welcome. I'm Tom.
Hi.
Hi. Well, it's 3 on the dot. We'll give it a couple minutes. I'm fairly Swiss about time, but there we go. There's Constantina. I think she goes by Nina. Yeah.
Yeah, go by Nina.
Okay. Her official name Constantina, but AKA Nina. Let me see. 2, 3, or is it 4, 5, 7? I think. Sometimes people no show, so I'll just give it another minute or so. And did you have to download software, or you just did it through the browser?
You could just do it. Or no, I have Zoom on my computer.
Okay, so it's
You
easy
could
enough
have
to
entered
join.
through the browser as well, but I
Okay,
feel like everyone has used Zoom before.
right, right, yeah. Starting in 2020. So, um, we'll just give it one more minute. Let's see if sometimes folks reach out to Trina. Oops, she's already there. Let's jump in. I'm fairly punctual, and so are you. So thanks. We'll start on time. We'll finish on time, and that's a promise. My name's Tom. I moderate for a living, and so we're just going to talk about the wonderful thing about today. It's about soccer fan fests, and you've all been to a soccer fan fest, so that's what we all have in common, or we all have in common. I haven't been to one, um, and I'm a third party. What do we call it? Like almost like a, oh, there's Trina. Somebody companies hired to have these conversations so that if you say something sucks, that doesn't hurt my feelings, and I'm not defensive. So whatever you honestly think is what I want to hear, just the truth. And I'm not looking for consensus. So if Thais says something and Nina disagrees, and say I respectfully disagree, and I see it this way. Fine, I'm not looking for everybody to kind of agree on things. In fact, sometimes knowing that there's a divergence of opinion is really helpful. I do have. Is this being recorded? I want to make sure everybody knows that and is comfortable with that. I do have colleagues watching. They're in a separate. This is like kind of a webinar thing, so they're observers, and then you're the panelists, if you will, the featured panelists. So occasionally they'll WhatsApp me questions, and so in case you wonder why I'm looking at my phone. But just to get started, I'd be curious to know, this is about soccer, it's about FanFest, and sort of the starting question is, what was the tipping point that took you from being a casual, fan to being someone who would go to a fan fest, or you become an avid fan, right? And so my example would be, I'm Tom. I was born and raised in Montreal in Canada. And my father's office, when I was maybe 10, got season tickets to the Montreal Canadiens. And whenever there were games that nobody wanted to go to, he brought them home and I got to go. So was the tipping point for me to become an avid, I'm still a fan. They're in the playoffs in the second round, which is kind of exciting. So if we could go around the room, I think Neil was on first. So we'll start with Neil and then we'll just randomly go from there. But just what was your tipping point to go from casual soccer fan to sort of avid fan fest attendee, if you will? And it could have been a gradual thing or it could have been a sudden thing.
Yeah, so my friends in college, they were really into soccer, and that was pretty much all we watched most of the time. We had like a little TV set up, and we'd watch it all the time. And then once we all turned 21, there were a lot of bars that we were going to, and they did like live showings of like games, game day like deals and stuff. And so that's when we started going to like different events for like different soccer games. And then I feel like there was an increase of the fan fest related stuff in the last like 2, 3 years. Where like Brooklyn rooftops, so people will have like a massive projector, and then like showcase like old games or current games. We had some like FIFA officials in the city. They were doing like a meet and greet in Washington Square Park, which is really cool. A lot of people were there. I didn't get to actually meet and greet them, but I watched from like a distance. It was just too much of a line. Um, but I feel like soccer fans go crazy, and like we have the World Cup coming up this summer, which I know it's in New Jersey, but it's pretty much right next to New York City, and all the fan fest stuff is going on here. There's like a bunch of stuff. Um, these like little like squares of like people that you come. There's like prizes you can win, TVs that play the games. Um, like sponsors will be there. There's one in every borough. There's one in Manhattan, Bronx. I don't know about Staten Island. I know Brooklyn has one. I know Queens has one. So they're all prepping right now, um, for like this wave of people who are going to be here. Just because like public transport's going to get crowded. There's a lot of fans, a lot of people drinking. It's going to be fun, but I think it's going to be quite a challenge to kind of keep everyone in check. But we'll see. I'm excited nonetheless. But yeah, that's the tipping point was pretty much my friends. I was more into basketball than I was soccer, and then they just made me a soccer fan.
Worst viewing. Okay. Um, to remember who was second in the meeting room. Was it Thais?
Yeah, it was me. Um, my name's Thais. I don't know if I mentioned that already. I know I mentioned it to Neil and Tom, but the tipping point for me was also one of my friends. She got tickets to the Women's World Cup in New Zealand in 2023. She was originally going to go with her family, but then they like could no longer make it. So she invited me and then a couple other of my friends. So we planned like this whole trip. We only went to one game, but each city that we went to was really cool to go to different like sports bars and restaurants and watch all the games that were on, but also see like all these fans that had traveled from all over the world to come to games in New Zealand. So that was like a cool kind of unifying thing with all these strangers from all over the world. Um, and while we were there, we obviously went to the game, but two of the cities that we visited, Auckland and Wellington, had a fan zone set up. So it was like they had memorabilia from all the teams. They had like I think every jersey that was in the tournament. So all the teams like organized in this cool rainbow array just by color, which was really cool. Um, they sold merch in the fan zones. The fan zone in Auckland had like uh a field. It was small though. I don't know if it's like futsal sized field. I don't really know soccer super well actually. But anyway, it was really cool. There was like a whole atmosphere involved. And so since we came back from that trip, we've all kind of just kept up with it a little bit more. San Diego recently got like they rebuilt a stadium. And so there's a women's team that plays there and recently a men's what's it called? National Soccer League or whatever. Anyway,
MLS.
yes, thank you. MLS. So there's an MLS team there, so we've like gone to games. So really it was through a friend, but then just through that experience, kind of looking into all these different like ways to kind of participate and watch soccer.
I'm just curious because some of
Mhm.
this soccer stuff I feel, there's this, and maybe it's just the media, but there's a sense of community, but there's also a sense of competition. You mentioned all these jerseys, and I feel like, oh, these people come
Mhm.
from a different place. It feels kind of like a nice environment. Is
Yeah.
that uh, sort of your experience, or was there some tension amongst the sort of teams or countries?
I do remember one game, like the last game in the group stage, I think the US played Sweden, and just the people at the table next to us were rooting for the opposite team. So there was a little tension, but I mean, all good spirited. Um, but for the most part, like everyone was just so excited to be there. So that was really the only interaction we had that I was like, oh my gosh, there's like tension right now because we're rooting for opposite teams. But I think on a whole, everyone was just really excited to see like so many other fans excited about soccer.
Awesome. I can't remember the order next. Was it Angelo next who's on?
Sure, I'll go. Yeah, I guess tipping point. I've always played soccer my whole life. Going to a particular fan fest though, I think the first one I went to was in Germany during the 2018 World Cup. It was set up by the university I was going to, and they had like a tent, a bunch of tables. They don't hand stuff out like they do a lot here in the US. It was more like they handed you two beer tickets, and that was it, and then you just found a place at the table. And it was Germany, Mexico, and so there was three Mexican girls, and then the rest of them were just all Germany fans in their white jerseys that year. And Mexico ended up winning that game. That's what I remember from a fest perspective. Now that I live in Chicago, I've been to like a Cubs fan fest. They have like Wrigleyville. They have the little thing that goes around. And then down here, I live on the south side now, so the White Sox do some stuff. I've been to a bunch of Chicago Fire games too. I've been down to St. Louis, and I love going to the pregame stuff too, just to get like the free stuff. So yeah, that's about it.
I will circle back and ask you about free versus paid or beer tickets versus merch, but it seems in line with Germany that you would get beer and not something else, and probably very big ones, right? Tyra, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think maybe the tipping point, I've also played soccer my whole life and I'm currently a D1 athlete playing soccer. Soccer is just a very big part. I'm European, I'm from Norway, so it's just a very big part of just our culture in general. Yeah, I've always grown up and watching like whenever it's like a championship, if it's like the World Cup or the European Championship in soccer, there's always like during the summer, you always like with your friends or family, you have like a gathering. Either you watch it like at home, like with a TV, and you have like food and alcohol and like have like a watch party yourself, or you go to like bars. Or a couple of years ago, I was for the European Championship. They had this big fest in Norway, so I was a part of a professional team. So we went there as like celebrated us being done with our spring season. So that was like an ending. So we went like the whole team. We had bought a VIP table and watched it on this like big screen. And yeah, it's I don't know, tipping point maybe being like a bit older and enjoying like the community and being with other people. Yeah, the social part of it for sure.
It sounds like a part of Norwegian culture growing up, kind of maybe like cross country skiing or something is so celebrated in Norway.
Yes.
Grace?
Kind of similar to Tyra. I've always played soccer and we played D1 together. But I think the tipping point for me was kind of before the 2023 World Cup because so it was hosted by Australia and New Zealand. And there had recently been like an increase in kind of the media coverage and just the national support of the Australian national women's team. And so it went from me just maybe watching a game on TV to actually trying to go to every game I could. And there were fan festivals at each city, regardless if they were hosting games. And so these were just really enjoyable places to go. Like they had live music, performers, food events, all that kind of stuff, like merchandise. And then also that kind of carried through to the Australian Soccer League, which hasn't ever been that popular. But they started to kind of model off what the World Cup did with having more of these fan centres where you don't have to actually go to the game, but you can go watch the game, in a park, and there's going to be a lot of things to do kind of around it.
Can I ask you a question about the music? Was it sort of, I don't know my Australian bands. I'll probably get them wrong if I try to guess, but was it sort of more native Australian bands? And was it kind of more Australian
Yes.
food or was it, oh, go ahead.
In terms of the music, it was this band called San Cisco, and they're like a kind of Australian indie band, but they're very well known in Australia. So they did a tour around each of like the fan centers, and it was this free concert. Um, and then the food, it's just it was a like very multicultural, just kind of reflection on like Australian culture.
Got it. Okay. So local indie band, but well known in Australia.
Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. I guess we'll just continue in the Maria. So I don't know if you were here for the question. Some people, I think Hannah joined late, but
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
here.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So for me, I mean, I grew up playing soccer. I played D1 with Grace and Tyra. And for me, I think the tipping point was whenever I got started getting more serious about soccer, like 16-ish. And like I went to sports boarding school. And like around that time, it was the men's World Cup, the last men's World Cup. And my dad ended up getting tickets for the quarterfinals, the semis, and the finals. And so we ended up going there to Qatar. And I remember like we went to like the official FIFA fan festival and it was really, really cool. There was like they had like a museum, they had like a bunch of games that like all the fans could play. There was food, there was music. It was just a really cool experience overall. And I think just like getting to see like the finals and like the atmosphere and being around that definitely was a tipping point for me.
Was the museum the history of football, Qatari
It
football?
was Well, one of them, so there was like two parts to it. One of it was just like World Cup history and like who's won and like players in the past. And then like the other part um was more just like players in general, like Pele, Neymar, Ronaldo, and like their old houses and like things like that, and like their jerseys.
The original Ronaldo, his old house, or
Yeah, both Ronaldos.
Cristiano, or okay.
Yeah.
Because I know Brazilian Ronaldo kind of came from very little, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cool. Anything that stood out as like, wow, that was one thing about that FIFA fan festival
Yeah,
that
I remember. So like in the actual game, like FIFA, you can do like this small-sided game, and they like had that in real life. And like you could do like 4v4s with like just like fans, and like this like mini stadium that they built. So I think that was definitely the coolest part for sure.
or like a live four on
Yeah.
four. Okay, I
Yes.
thought
Yeah.
maybe it was a kind of a fantasy
No. Yeah.
football
Like a
thing or
live, like a
okay.
live 4v4. Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right, Nina.
So I would say the tipping point for me was when the first women's team for the Bay Area was here, was Bay FC. So I think they started in 2023. And I've grown up in the Bay Area my whole life. So to see like a women's pro team be like organized here was crazy for me. And when I got the opportunity to go, I remember in the beginning, I mean, they're still doing this. I feel like BAFC does a really good job with involving fans, whether it's a paid ticket or not. But the specific game I went to was it was in their early months when they first began the team. And I remember we had bought tickets for the game, but if you didn't buy tickets, then they still had a designated like FanFest area. And it was really cool. Like you were welcome to PayPal because they play at PayPal. And I remember they had like a big like live DJ. And I went with a couple of my teammates. It was really fun. They had a bunch of food trucks, and I think they had some meet and greets because the founders of BFC are a bunch of like veterans of soccer, like a bunch of women. Like there's Brandy Chastain is there. She's really famous, and it was a really cool experience. I've grew up playing soccer my whole life, so I don't know, it was really cool just to see women like soccer be a bigger thing in the Bay Area.
Sounds like a big moment. It achieved a certain, I don't know, status or recognition, or I don't know how you would describe it exactly.
Yeah, no, it was really really cool. Because we've had the earthquakes here this for as long as I can remember, and so finally having a women's pro team here, they made it a huge thing. I remember it was like everywhere. I would see banners about it, like billboards, all about this game, and then I got to go, which was really cool.
Nice. Hannah, you joined late. Welcome. Tom. Some moderating. Sorry to put you last, but you came in last. So, and we're talking about, I don't know, we're here for the question, which is, what was the tipping point for you to go from sort of casual fan to maybe avid fan, or to the point of attending a fan fest? And some people have gone as far as Qatar to attend one. So, or, well, attend World Cup, but fan fest was part of it. So,
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was having difficulty with logging onto the Zoom, but I think for me, I'm originally from San Diego, and it wasn't until I feel like San Diego Wave and then SDFC kind of came about that my family and I really took a big part in it. I've always been a very big soccer fan, given that, it's just kind of my world and I'm in and around it, and I love watching the World Cup. But I feel like the difference between kind of watching it on TV to actually going in person was the fact that we had a local team now, and my brother has become a part of the supporter group for SDFC, which is really cool. And so when I come down, I like to say I'm like the avid plus one that's only there because I live in San Francisco, obviously, when I'm here, but it's really cool. So I've gotten to see a lot of fun experiences with them. I really like the way that they include the supporters, but then also the fans who kind of just come and get tickets. And with the supporters, they kind of have this like big tailgate, and they show up like 5 hours before the game starts, and everyone just hangs out in the parking lot and they grill, and there's games and you can meet new people and there's live music, and it's really fun, and it's just a cool way to kind of build that community and really get everyone excited to go kind of cheer on for their home team. But then on top of it, I think SDFC does a really good job of incorporating um, a section for the fans where there's food trucks, there's Maria kind of talked about like the 4v4. They usually do like a little blow up game for little kids to come and they can shoot on the goal, and it's really cool. It's like a way, to them for them to play, but it's also contained, so there's not, stuff kind of happening everywhere, and there's games and music, like I said. So I think it's just been really cool to see the progression of it, and then on top of it, like it being in San Diego because we used to have the Chargers and now we don't. So I think soccer has taken a really big place in San Diego.
so it's a bigger part of the culture now because the football
Yeah.
team's gone. So, I'm just curious. Neil started out saying it was sort of media. in his household that got him into the sport. A lot of you had some sort of personal introduction, invitation to a game or to a fan fest. A lot of you have played, um, and is kind of through vicariously through her brother as the supporter for the local team. Any other ways in which you like? I didn't hear anything about social media, which is fine. I'm just curious. It feels almost more like old school, like word of mouth or kind of personal connections over. I don't know. I was just curious. Nothing, and you're all sort of on the younger end of things, so relative to me, that is. So I'm just curious. I didn't hear anything about social media. Does social media play a part? What part does it play? That's an open question to anyone.
I think I'm speaking from an Australian point of view, it played a massive part in kind of getting a fan base for the Australian national team. Prior to the 2023 World Cup, there wasn't it wasn't well known. Like these players weren't well known. And there was a documentary made with Disney leading up to it, and it kind of commented on how before they were able to live their lives, the players, and walk down the street and get a coffee, but now they are like these celebrities. Like they are kind of the most well-known athletes in all of Australia, and that was 100% through social media.
Got it. So there was sort of it was like helped to introduce the public to the idea. So okay. So and it brought the players to light because had before that, did anybody really know who the players were?
Don't know.
Don't know.
Soccer
Okay.
like isn't Australia's main sport, and so there was a big push to kind of uh, bring it up, more to the public, which is why the fan fest and why there's a lot done around the local league to kind of involve people more outside of just matches.
Got it. Um, we're going to transition to just in a way deconstructing the journey of a fan fest, a soccer fan fest, sort of the before, during, and after, and kind of what the highs and lows are. But if we started in the before section, so it hasn't happened yet, why do you go? What's the promise of FanFest? Just kind of curious in a broader notion. I mean, it sounds like Thais, you're invited, or some of you got invited to games, whatever. I'm just kind of curious, like, what's the promise of FanFest for you all?
So when I went to the game in Auckland, before the game, we were obviously like encountering a bunch of other travelers who were also going to games just at the airport, and we stayed at a hostel. So there was a lot of other like young people there who were also going to the game. And the US, there was like a US fan pregame party that was at a brewery or something like that. So we found out, I don't know if we found out about it from social media, but I just remember before the event, like, when you're in a location before a big event and you get targeted. So I was getting like a lot of targeted ads just about like the different events and things like that. Um, but we went to this pre-party because we were hoping to just connect with other US fans and also just kind of check out what the vibes would be like. Because we could tell people were really excited, so we just thought it would kind of be a good time. And it was really cool, actually. The bar, or again, it may have been a brewery, was totally packed. There were people who brought like a bunch of face tattoos. I think these were just private people. Like I don't think the organizers of the Fan Fest necessarily brought all of these things to share, but it was really cool to see how people brought like I mentioned, face tattoos. Someone was doing face painting. Um, Stickers, just like a couple other things like that. I think they had like pom poms that they were giving away. And just seeing like how people were coming together, trying to add to the atmosphere. Like everyone wanted to kind of bring something to share or like paint a stranger's face just to kind of get in the spirit of the game.
Anyway, talk to me and anyone else in terms of logistics getting to FanFest. Issue, problem, no big deal. Take public transit or the special buses, like a nightmare, traffic, whatever. I'm just curious what are the logistics like?
I remember for in Qatar, like we would take public transportations to like the games and the fan fest, and I just remember like it was packed, like you couldn't even move, like more than like 2 feet without like bumping into someone. Honestly, it was really, really hard, but I mean, it was definitely worth it. But yeah, the transportation was definitely more difficult, I'd say.
And does it make a difference if the venue is kind of in the city center where this fan fest is, or next to the stadium, or somewhere else in the city?
Like any other time of the day, like if we weren't going to games or to like the fan fest, it like the city felt like it was empty. There was literally like no one on the road or on the buses, but like anytime like there was a game or like towards the fan fest, it got really, really packed.
God, I guess part of my question is, is it better to have a fan fest centrally located next to the stadium or whatever? Is it better to be separate or apart from where
I'd say
the
probably
event?
separate for sure. Yeah, separate. Because there's already so many
Because
people like going towards the games, and if you're not going to that game, it's easier to like have less people go to like another side and then like have it less packed at
anyone
times.
else
I
agree? Oh, go ahead.
I'd actually like to, not that I have anything against you, Maria, I'm so sorry, but I disagree with your point. I've been to FanFest in Cincinnati. Cincinnati Stadium is like right downtown. And I think it like there's a march to the stadium. There's all these people selling stuff around the park. Like it's like an extension of the FanFest almost. Like before you go into the game, there's like this whole other kind of party that like kind of leads you into the center of the stadium. Same thing in Germany. They had it right next to the university where they hold all of these. It's like right smack dab in the middle. The university's right in the middle, and then they like set up the fan fest right onto the side. And it's just like a converging place, and it makes it easier in terms of transit because you can take any line down there. In Chicago, it makes it so much more easier, especially for like music festivals that I've been to or um, other centrally located events that are like you can pay for tickets. Sometimes they're giving tickets away, and then there's like DJs and food in there. So I think having it centrally located is way better. Like when I went in Santa Clara, Santa Clara is out in the middle of the parking lot. I think that's so lame. Like I think it's so it kind of takes away from the atmosphere because it's not packed. Like I think being packed in is kind of part of it because you're like around people who enjoy the atmosphere more so than like, oh, like I'm all the way out in the middle of this like kind of like car desert. Like it's just a parking lot with a big screen and maybe some blow up stuff. I always just found those ones like way less energy than the ones that are like with the hustle and bustle of the city. When you see like a bunch of people kind of converging into one point, I think that's so cool. I think it adds to it.
Does anyone else want to weigh in that centralized versus apart from sort of the
Yeah,
event or the venue?
Angelo, a big part like back home, like it doesn't need to be like uh the World Cup or anything, but just like local rivalries or just like big games. It's usually like close where you go, you march all together, like all the fans, and you have like the big banners and pyro and like these ultras fans. So like big group just marching to the stadium together from like the bars or fest or something similar. So I agree, like close for sure. And then you're at the place too, and then you don't need to think about Uber or anything because that's usually chaos, getting taxis and all that.
I
And to
also
add,
I
want
oh, I'm
to.
sorry.
Oh,
To
guys,
add
this
no,
is
one
you're
more
great.
fine.
thing.
It's a
I was
hot
also
topic,
just
so go
gonna
ahead.
agree with you. I think having it centralized, totally agree about the energy and also the experience of like everyone kind of marching to the game together when the fan fest or the pre-party is like right near the stadium is so cool. Um, and also if people are traveling for the game, like I know when I travel, I generally try to pick a central place to stay if I can. So having the ability to, like one of the towns we stayed in, we were able to just walk down to the fan fest and kind of check it out for a little bit, or the fan zone rather. So we didn't have to make like a whole extra plan to go and do it. It was just sort of easy to access. But if we had to like Uber or take public transit and kind of like go out of the way to go there, we probably just wouldn't have gone. But it was really cool to go. So I was glad that it was like just kind of right nearby.
Do people typically go alone with just a friend and big packs of people, family, like teams? I'm just curious what these fan fest specifically.
I mean, I went with my teammates. There was like a group of six of us that went, and I missed the question of how did you get there? We took public transportation there because there's Caltrain that goes there, and then you can bus. But I think that well, we went to BAFC. I think they've implemented like vans that can take you specifically from the stations now. But I would have to fact check on that. I'm not too sure. But and then I also agree with it being located at the same stadium or arena that the game's happening at. I think it just creates like a big environment full of energy and like the hustle and bustle. And then I think a big part of it is like meet and greets. I think that's huge when they have players come out, like maybe before the game or some people important. I think it's really cool to have those players come out. And if you're not located like within proximity to the stadium, I feel like that's not, I don't think that can work out. You know, if it's like 3 miles away, I don't think the player's going to go all the way, or like 10 miles away, they're not going to go over there, then come back for their game. But if it's right outside, then they could just come down, say hi, sign some autographs.
Can I ask a question? It's just great conversation. We get a bunch of questions, material to cover too. Is like, do you pay for FanFest? Is it free? Should it be free? Should it be paid? Like, what's the over under on free versus paid as it relates to Soccer FanFest?
A lot of the ones I've been to have been free. But then there are like things to pay for if you like want food and drinks. And I deeply believe it should be free. Because if you want kind of people there, you don't want to have to put like a price cap on it.
Other heads nodding. Neil, what do you think?
A lot of them here, if they're at like a bar, there's like it's like a $20 ticket, but then you get like one or two drinks at the bar for free. You'll get like a drink ticket or something. So it ends up kind of working out, but I do think they should probably be free. More
But
people
if
would
you
show up.
pay, there's some sort of something in exchange or return, in your case,
Yeah,
beer. Yeah.
most times, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyone
I
else
also
have?
agree. It should be free. I feel like more people are inclined to go to free events. So if you want more people there, then I think free is the way to go. And then you'll end up making revenue off of whatever else that there is. Like you'll sell merch. I mean, you're already making so much money off of merch, the food there, different other events. Like I don't think that putting a cost on FanFest would be a smart decision.
If it's like $5 to $10, does that change it for
I,
you? Or is that just to
then
change your
that's like
expectation?
yeah, honestly, like, okay, $5, but realistically, like, no one's gonna charge $5. Like, might as well just charge nothing, you know? And then people might make the last minute decision to go because it's like, oh, it's okay, it's free, just come. You have nothing to lose.
think I
I have a
agree.
cool.
I think it should be free or kind of in return if you are paying, like the understanding of like what necessarily you're paying for. I think that helps kind of entice people of knowing, okay, well, if I'm paying, then I get this in return, kind of how like Neil said, if you're paying a $20 ticket, in return you're getting two free drinks, or kind of like the understanding of um if I am paying for it, I'm getting, benefits in return, or make it free and then have, like Nina said, either the merch be where you're getting your revenue or the food trucks or some sort of other activity or event that maybe you have to, like the fan fest is free, the activity, but I think it probably should be free. I think everyone should have access to it. And I think it's a really good opportunity for people to just kind of have that like exposure and be part of.
Yeah, I got a question for my colleague. His name's Marcus, by the way. So, what level of perk do you need to make a ticket price worth it? Which I think Neil, to some degree, answered, and you just answered, which is, but I'm just kind of sure what the value exchange is. Like, okay, so um, what level, what other than two beers for Neil, are there something else that if you did charge something $5 or $10, what sort of level of perk do you need to make that worth it?
I think merch is always cool to get. Like that's a big thing at baseball games. They'll give away like rally rags or jerseys, t-shirts, different things like that for special games. So I think that's cool, and that's also something kind of that everyone can enjoy because I think what everyone is kind of saying about it being free is that gives it the feeling that it's for everyone versus if you charge, it kind of feels like it's only for people who are interested or only people who want to go. But giving away something that anyone can enjoy versus obviously drink tickets are for people who are of age and not everyone would want to drink. And it kind of might turn away like some parents with young children, giving away like a bucket hat or something like that, like a pin, gives a little bit more like inclusivity to everyone, I think.
Is your comment related to the conversation before Angelo first brought it up? Was this sort of like the energy builds through the parade and the fan fest and the game? Like you're the flag you're waving in unison is like a uniting object, as opposed to the beer ticket, which is, well, it's just for people over 21 and probably not people with kids who are as interested or something. Like, I just wonder if is the merch thing something that meant to bring together, but you also mentioned bucket hats. I'm curious, is it, the perk that you would get for paying for it something that in its highest form is something that brings everybody together? It's more like, oh, I like t-shirts, I like hats, I like, support flags, whatever.
Well, I think when you receive merch at a fan fest or at a game or whatever, that there's an event and they give out merch, it's cool because throughout the game, majority of the people in the crowd are wearing that merch, and it just kind of creates a different, like a little bit more cohesion and a little bit more energy. For example, like I went to a baseball game and they gave away sun hats because it was Mother's Day or something like that. And then you look out in the crowd and like everyone's wearing these sun hats, and there's like little kids wearing them and like old guys that would never wear a sun hat, but they're like wearing the sun hat or they've turned it upside down as a rally hat. So it just kind of really added to the atmosphere in addition to like incentivizing you more to go to that specific game and to get there early to make sure they don't run out, stuff like that.
And then trade-off merch versus sort of programming, like Nina mentioned, you know, meet and greets or might be skills things, and Maria mentioned these 4-on-4s that she could actually literally participate in off to the side. I'm just kind of curious, programming versus merch, which is of greater value.
I think if it's not somebody that's worth it, I'm not going to pay for it. Like if it's just some local DJ and I'm paying $20 to get in, I don't care. And it's just a waste of my money at that point. Like if you're going to have like if it's DJ Pauly D, because I can't think of any other DJ, I will go just to say, just because I watched, whatever show he was on, I can't remember, with Snooki and all them. But if it's just like, oh yeah, we have a DJ, oh yeah, we have a blow up course, oh yeah, we have food you still have to pay for once you're inside, even though you paid to get in. I think it's a waste of time. I won't bother to go over there if I have to pay for something that I don't deem as worth it, if that makes sense. Like it has to be somebody big, or at least moderately big, like a B class or a C class celebrity. If you want like a C's too low, B to A, if you want like a actual incentive.
Do they need to be connected to soccer fan fest, or is it just a big
Absolutely not.
name? Was it Jersey Shores? Is that who's
Yeah, Jersey Shore. Thank you. Thank you. I
okay?
was
Yeah,
I
no
was
worries.
wondering what it was. But yeah, it doesn't need to be connected to soccer at all. Like I've seen they had like a Pride festival in Chicago and Saweetie was there. Saweetie's not even lesbian. Like, but I was like, I'm going because I love Saweetie and she has like a couple good songs. So it's like it can be somebody who has like one or two big hits and the rest of their stuff is trash, or like they're big in the moment, but it's not going to last. Like JoJo Siwa, she was here in Chicago for a festival. Like people came out to see JoJo Siwa because she was big at that moment, but she's not necessarily like she's not even a B class celebrity. Let's be real. Like she's like CD. So if it's somebody big in the moment, I'll consider paying. But if it's anybody less than, or like a has been that's not really popular anymore, don't waste my time.
Um, I do have another question, which is, did we lose somebody? Somebody dropped out, maybe. And Neil touched on it. That's who's actually dropped out. Was the connection with all these boroughs that? Oh no, there you are. Sorry, you went from the top side to the other side. And then trying to remember who talked about going to the bars in New Zealand, Thais maybe, or in Australia. So should it be connected to the city, or how do you connect FanFest to the city? If in Qatar it's there, but it's kind of crowded and dense, and World Cup's a whole other level, and especially I think World Cup in Qatar was probably just a crush of humanity, right? So, but how do you think about connecting this idea of FanFest out through the city? Sounds like the borough thing was kind of an interesting. Did each borough have its own spin on World Cup? Was it like the Bronx version of soccer and FIFA, or was it kind of one template that lived everywhere?
That's it, it's about to come. Like it's I think they start June 7th, something like that.
Okay.
So that's it's like in the works of it for the World Cup. We haven't had anything like this before where it's like all places for one event. I mean, it is the World Cup, so I think it's, pretty intense. But otherwise it's just kind of spotty, there's no real like Bronx is this, Queens is that. I do think that the Bronx has more Dominicans and like I think they're more into baseball, so you don't see as much like soccer stuff over there. But then if you get to like Queens and Brooklyn, there's like a lot more soccer stuff over there. Um, yeah, a lot of baseball fan fest stuff in the Bronx, and then I'd probably say soccer is the heaviest in Queens and Brooklyn. So those were those two and Manhattan are probably going to be the most heavily populated for when they do launch the fan fest like next month.
Anyone else in terms of how you connect a fan fest out broader in the city? Maybe it's other cultural touch points, whether that's food or music or fashion or film, I don't know, whatever else.
I do recall when I was traveling, there just being like consistent signage everywhere that had obviously World Cup branding, which I think is just probably the standard way that they do things. But there was signs like not just at the fan fest, but in the airport there was signage when you landed and like got off the planes or in the baggage claim. Different bars would have, I guess, sponsored watch parties, so they would have like the World Cup branding in their windows of the bars. So kind of just throughout the city, even like stores where you buy souvenirs, souvenir shops had just more soccer stuff. So it was kind of like scattered throughout, but I would say for the most part, I didn't notice different like areas having a different spin on FanFest, but I was just within like New Zealand. Um, but it was cool to see the consistent branding everywhere, and then it started like catching your eye because you started to recognize it.
Got it. And then we didn't stay entirely in the before mode, but now it's sort of during Fan Fest. Like, what's the main event all about? Like we talked about before, getting to it and anticipation and the parade and all these things. Now we're in the Fan Fest or entering the Fan Fest. What's that whole experience like? Positives and negatives. What goes well? What's most memorable? What could you do without?
Could do without the DJ saying something every 14 seconds or getting on the mic while the game's on. That's crazy. I think that's insane. Um, yeah.
Annoying DJ talking over the focus of why you're there in the first place.
Or when the food is like severely overpriced for like a hot dog and bread. Oh, that pisses me off. Don't waste my money like that. Like I'm already paying to, like I expect something to be upcharged when I go to something that's free, but like to do it to an obscene amount where I'm paying like $25 for a crappy little hot dog from Target, like don't waste my time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with him. Like the food being super expensive is definitely like one of the negatives, but honestly, like the atmosphere and everything else makes up for it sometimes, I guess. Yeah.
I agree with you both. Angelo, you're spot on. But also maybe like bathroom situation. When you I mean fan fest, like your people are gonna be drinking, right? And when you walk into the fan fest, you're pre-gaming this fan fest, ideally, and you walk in, there's no bathroom or the bathrooms are hard to find. I think that is such a con. Like why can the bathrooms be there and like accessible and like clean? And then looking around, if there are long lines everywhere, I don't know, being able to not have such condensed lines everywhere, making sure they're spread out, like having a tent here and then like a tent and this that sells the same stuff in a different area, just to spread out the density.
I
But
agree
then
on the
also
lines.
say it again.
Oh, I said I agree on the lines. Like if the
Yeah.
line's long and I have to choose between watching the game on the big screen or like going to get a drink or a snack, I'm probably not going to spend the money on the drink or the snack because I'd rather just watch the game because that's why I came instead of like stand in line forever.
So I think finding the fine line between obviously making it accessible and advertising it to everyone, but also then remembering this is like, a soccer event. And so making sure that it's not just a place for, another place for people to come and drink, but it's actually for people who are here to enjoy and watch soccer.
Having enough seating is also a big deal. Like if people come in and they can't sit down, again, people who are there like getting beers and stuff, they probably don't care. But if you're there with like your two little kids or your mom who's in her 60s or something, just having like enough space to sit is good. Like I went to one, they only had bean bags, which like for me was fine, but there were some people who couldn't really get up and down from a beanbag. So I think just having enough seating, space in general.
So accessibility is an issue. You mentioned the kids thing. I don't know if you went with nieces or nephews or cousins or younger, just curious about a family friendly vibe versus I think Grace mentioned, okay, booze and like crowds and, I'm just curious, and you brought either it sounds like you went with your mom, Thais. Like, I'm just curious what creates like a family safe vibe versus us young single people having a couple beers in Germany and dancing to the DJ or whatever. Well, what's a family friendly sort of
I
vibe
like the family
require?
friendly vibe because, again, like, especially for a bigger soccer event like World Cup or something like that, it really has the feel like that it's for everyone versus if it's maybe an MLS game or something that is hosted at a bar and it happens a little bit more frequently than if it's more of like an adults only event it's kind of a different situation. Um, but again, the ones that I went to, like we saw a lot of families there. They had like coloring and activities that were for kids also. So it was cool to see a way for everyone to be included. But they also did have like a bar where they were selling drinks and snacks and stuff like that.
Any other little things like the coloring, I don't know,
I
coloring
was
book
gonna say,
area or
I feel like one thing that I've like noticed or have also just like gotten like when people were there is obviously if like parents are going with their kids, like it's very likely that the parent wants to watch the game and the kid is probably running around or playing games. So I think my one thing that would be like enticing or helpful to have is kind of more like table time games so that the parents aren't like up and out like if they're doing activities or like if there is like a kid activity, like is it visible to the screen kind of that way like the parents are able to watch the game and also like be around like within and around their kids rather than having to either aid to their kids like over at the activity station and coming back and vice versa. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it does. I mean, it kind of put them in view. I have kids, and if I take them to a park and I can't see them at all times, it's stressful, right? So you want to be able to enjoy the experience, but also let your kids do their thing because they're maybe not focused on the game. Um, let's switch gears to after. So you've kind of done this pre thing, you've done the parade, whatever, FanFest zone. You've experienced it, and then afterward. But what's the most memorable thing you take away? Is it an event? Is it a object like a piece of merch? Is it some experience that you went through, skills test? I'm just curious, like
I think it
the
depends
after.
if your team wins or loses. Because if your team wins, then that's kind of the takeaway. And if your team loses, you probably have some other like things that you remember.
Winning solves
Honestly,
everything. Go ahead, Neil.
I just like the energy. Like it's fun. It's exhilarating. Like after, because sometimes it'll happen at night from like I don't know 7 to 10, and then everyone goes out after, and you meet so many different people. Um, so some of them even go from like just a watch party, and then it's like a dance bar. So it'll switch. The DJ will come, and like people are sad and like whatever, But I think the vibe changes pretty quickly. But I think it's just like a lot of things are like who you meet there. I feel like I've met so many different kind of people um, who you end up going out like the entire night with. So those are usually my takeaways. Otherwise, I like t-shirts, and, like cups. Like I remember this the U.S. Open. They always have like these cool cups. Like they have this drink, some like had like an orange melon ball or something in it. I don't know what it was called, but you got to take home the glass cup, that kind of stuff.
Anyone else in terms of after, kind of whether it's an object or a feeling or a vibe or a brand
I think
even?
the experience, especially for live music like that, to me was the biggest takeaway I had. Like this had been a band that I had wanted to sing for a while, and then to get the chance to do it at like a FIFA World Cup event, um, like it's that generally is the most memorable part I have from the entire World Cup, and like I went and saw two other games.
Yeah, for me too. Definitely the experience. Like, I mean, it's not every day that you go to a World Cup and like with your dad or like with my uncle. And like honestly, that was probably some of the best memories I've had with them. So definitely like the experience and just like being in that atmosphere with them and like enjoying soccer and like watching that with them.
And do souvenirs play a role in kind of keeping that memory alive? Do you have sort of a Qatar World Cup sweatshirt or something that you like, or is it more just that experience having been with them?
I'd say more of the experience with them, but I started collecting like mini soccer balls there. And now every time that like I see a little mini soccer ball, I buy it and it like just reminds me of the World Cup and that experience that I had with my dad.
Do you have friends buy them when they go to different World Cups in different places or?
No, I don't, but I probably will be at this World Cup. I don't know what games, but yeah.
Nice. Curious about brands in the context of FanFest. Like, um, how do you perceive them? Like, do you think it's meaningful that they're part of the sport and they support it? Is it genuine? Does it seem inauthentic and it's just marketing?
I
Curious,
love a
like, how do you?
brand that gives you free stuff, like a free shot. Like if it's like we there was Jose Cuervo was at one event and they gave you like a free little taste of their new nasty drink, but at least I got to try it and I will remember that I don't like those drinks, but Jose Cuervo did give me new stuff, did give me something free. And so I will buy Jose Cuervo because it's usually the cheapest too. But thanks for
You
putting that
need
in my head.
you need the melon ball drink that Neil had at US Open. So
Exactly, exactly.
I think there's definitely a line. Like, there's a lot of events that you can't have if a brand doesn't sponsor them. But if they're giving away something that's free and the biggest logo on the thing is the brand, then it's probably not going to be as cool and probably not going to use it as much as if it's like US women's national team sponsored by Truly at the bottom or whatever.
so there's a ratio or a balance of
Yeah, like you would expect it to have their marketing on it because they're giving it to you for free. They're like hosting this big event, but having it still be something again that like looks cool over just something that says Truly. And I'm just using Truly as an example because the fan fest I went to was sponsored by Truly, but it's not like I have any vendetta against them. Um, but like I got a koozie, I think, at this fan fest that they were giving away, and I still use it all the time, and it's cool.
and
But
does
it
it
is
have
the
a big
bottom.
uh, team logo and a small Truly thing, or is it like a Truly cozy? Because it doesn't
It's
sound like you
like
have any resentment towards them. Like,
it has like the logo of the fan fest kind of, or it's like specific to the event. So it doesn't say like US Women's National Team, but it says like whatever they called the specific fan fest, and then it said like sponsored by Truly or something like that.
so we have a range of. It sounds like basically any brand is okay there. Any other thoughts or disagreements where brands kind of cross the line? You think like, why are they here? Why are they doing that? Or that doesn't belong at a soccer fan fest?
What type of brands are you specifically talking about? Like, is it just food brands or is it like like what would be something that we would expect? I don't know. Do you have an example?
I don't. Yeah, just kind of curious whether like in a parallel thing, you're like DJ talking over the game says like, "What are you doing, dude? Like, we're here for the game, and you're talking over it. That doesn't make any sense." Because I'm a soccer fan and I want to walk. That's my sense. I'm like, the same way. Can any brand be at a soccer fan fest, or is there some that like you feel like, oh no, that totally. It sounds like Jose Cuervo. Fine, right? Like, it's okay. Or melon ball glass, but it's okay. So Truly, what is Truly? I don't know. Do you know?
Truly is like a hard seltzer brand.
A hard sell. Okay, so we got hard
But I
seltzer, we
think it
got
makes
Corvo.
sense
So
if,
booze brands legit.
yeah, I think it makes sense if the brand is somehow associated with the event. So obviously Truly, and they're having an event at a brewery, or if it's like a golf event, for example, having Callaway give away free golf balls, or something that makes sense for the people that are at the event. Like if it's a golf event and you have a big, like, I don't know, football brand represented, then the people at the event might not be as interested in that brand. And so it's just not really a good match. But it also seems like that brand would maybe not pursue that partnership, like sponsoring that event, if that makes sense. But just having it be pertinent. So, like Adidas or Nike, if it's not going to be a consumable, like for merch or something like that.
Maria, you mentioned something about these little soccer balls was kind of this object for you. Are there other souvenirs that folks have that sort of feel like it deepened your connection to the Fan Fest?
I'm gonna be honest, half the time I get them, I put them in a bag, and then I go, when you clean up your room, I'm like, gotta throw that out. Oh, but that's nice, like you get the little reminder and then you throw it out. Feels very like very wasteful, but I'm sure everybody does that, like towels or cups or balls or whatever it may be. I usually just I look at them once and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna put this in a cool place. And then I just throw them away, especially if it's like plastic and it's really cheap and it's not very durable. Like most of the time, I'm just like, well, that's not going to last. So might as well just throw it away.
I always
Why do you
use koozies.
koozies? Okay, the functional things. Anyone else?
This wasn't at my fan fest, but I know that BFC does, or they did do this in a game against the Houston Dash. BFC sponsored by Trader Joe's, so they came out with like mini Trader Joe's tote bags, but in BFC colors, which I think that was a really good idea. And they were giving them away. So if you came to the game, you got one, and then they had other interactive games that were relevant to Trader Joe's. I think they did like they always host FanFest. So before, I'm pretty sure they had like a bagging like grocery game, or they did like a scavenger hunt. I'm probably for like little kids, but they used the bags as like the baskets, and they got to take home the bags, and I think whatever they got to take home. But yeah, I think that was good. And like people would actually use mini tote bags, and I'm pretty sure they're selling. They like I think people are reselling them now for like $60.
I think they go for like $1,000 in Japan too. The TJ ones. I don't know why. There's some
Yeah.
cult around that. So I got to switch gears. I'm partly saying that out loud, so my colleague Marcus knows I'm going to do a screen share thing. So if he has any more questions, I want to share. Let's see if you can see that. Do you see? Oops. Let me move this bar thing up and out of the way. Can you see this thing says podcast live conversations? That
Yeah.
everybody? Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm just kind of curious. Describe your interest in these different formats of like whether it's a podcast or a live conversation with influencers, and these would be at part of FanFest. Live conversations with influencers and content creators, quizzes or trivia, online sports contests or tournaments. Kind of curious as part of
I
sort of
think
digital program.
trivia and quizzes are really fun and people always want to participate in them.
I also think podcasts, and like conversations with influencers and content creators are really important, because it gives an understanding to people who maybe don't know much about soccer and kind of makes it more accessible and gives them a chance to catch up on, the current situation. And they were a massive part of the 2023 World Cup.
So that's almost like a onboarding or whatever, like introductory versus someone like you who kind of knows more about
Yeah.
football.
Yeah. And like, I know a lot of ex-professional soccer players do like podcasts themselves, and then so they're always talking about it. So there's levels for kind of everyone, like if you're just getting into it or if you've played the sport or if
Got it. So you're seeing influencers and content creators, people who have like a legitimate voice in the category of, yeah. Um, and the quizzes or trivia games seems like popular. Um, Maria, you played a contest of some kind, 4-on-4, but I'm just curious, any online sports contests or tournaments appealing to folks or?
We back home at some games and at FanFest, what they would do either in like the break or like the halftime or before the game, they would do like Kahoot. It's like big Kahoot, so like the whole stadium could play, like log in, so you screen like the Kahoot join code, and then you could win prizes. So they did that in like the stadium during some of our national team games, but also at like FanFest. So it's like a big, so everybody just sit there and yeah, different questions about soccer or the game or yeah, so that's fun.
How does the vibe in the stadium or in the fan fest change when everybody's playing that one game? Is it broadcast up onto the Jumbotron sort of thing? Is that
So it's like broad, so they'll like announce like, oh, we're gonna play Kahoot, say first, second, and third place get a prize, and say they can be like, oh, it's a jersey, it's a signed jersey, or something like that, an incentive, and then they'll, so like for example, in the national team games, what they would do in the half times, they show it on the jumbotrons and like the big screens in the stadium, so people could just like go on their phones, log in, say they give like a couple of minutes so people can join. And then yeah, you have the code. I don't remember, like say it's like 10 questions or like not to like an excessive amount. And then yeah, it definitely gets people engaged. There's a lot of people joining, and you can imagine when it's like a big stadium with a lot of people and there's kids and there's like you just join for the fun of it. So yeah, I think that's fun for sure.
that sounds very inclusive. Everybody in the stadium or everybody at the fan fest, including the kids, can play. It's almost back to that waving support flags as well too. It's like a uniting moment, if you will. Any other feedback on any of these content ideas or programming ideas?
Even if it's not necessarily like a interactive one where you can physically compete, like in Chicago, the one I love that they do at the Fire Games is like they'll have the L race. So it'll be like the brown, purple, pink, and orange line will race on screen, and then you choose a train, and everybody's like going wild when the brown line wins or the orange line wins, whatever wins that week. So even just like a little competitive spirit like that, I always like that. Even or if it's people like physically competing, like you're watching somebody try to hit the crossbar, or you're trying to or like score a goal against a professional goalie or something like that. Like I'm always rooting for the person who's gonna win, because if he wins the $250 gift certificate or whatever, like I won it in my brain.
Any other thoughts on these programming ideas? A great range of feedback, so awesome. You all get A's. Um, Let me switch to some maybe more physical ones. Can you see skill demonstration meets and greets? Is that what you see? Great. Um, Kind of curious how you describe your interest and experiences, like skills, demonstrations, or meet and greets. I guess somebody's mentioned, I think Nina mentioned that early on. That was a big part of the Fan Fest, right? I added athletes, coaches, trainers. I don't know who necessarily would be available to do it, but someone within the organization, or challenges between athletes and fans. I guess Maria had the challenges between fans and fans, right? It was a fan to fan contest. So go ahead, anyone.
I think challenges between athletes and fans are really cool. Especially I would say when you're watching women's sports and sometimes there are fans that are super confident that they can like score a goal or beat this player and they don't realize like when you're facing someone who's elite at what they do, even if it's a woman and you like played soccer in high school or whatever, it's cool to see people kind of really respect the level of expertise that these players have versus thinking like, oh, as you watch the game, you're like, oh, I could score that goal. But then you go and try to do it and you realize like, no, they're actually really at the peak of what they do. It's just cool to see, I guess, people be humbled and have like that next level of respect for the players.
Yeah, there was a gentleman in the previous group who lived in Chicago, and there was a swing for your seats. I think if you got a home run from the stadium, you got free seats, and he got pretty far, but he didn't get a home run. So just that reality of what the athlete deals with, like Angela was talking about, how hard is it to hit the crossbar, for example, by design. Um, any other feedback on the meet and greets or the skills demonstrations?
I do like when the local teams do come out for, like, say the US was playing US versus Germany in Chicago, and then the Chicago Bears or the Chicago Fire or one of the Chicago Red Stars like came in, or if you had all of them there, that'd be kind of cool just to see the city kind of rally around one particular team that you're also going for. Like kind of like a city pride thing, to make it more specific to the city. Um, I think that'd be cool.
I want to expand on that idea a bit. It's interesting, like you're bringing in a sort of like, how do you connect this event out through the city, right? So it's like you're saying one vector is a local sports team, a different sport, but somehow they come into the mix. Are there other connections that these fan fest events could create across the city that sort of makes sense and would be cool and interesting for y'all?
Yeah, or like local celebrity, not I don't want to, when I say local celebrities, people like automatically think of like singers or like rappers or whatever. But like we have here in Chicago, there's always this Chicago historian that comes. His name's Dilla, and he's always there, and he always like lays down some fact you've never known about Chicago, and it makes you feel proud that you live here in Chicago. Or, like if it's very specified knowledge, not necessarily musical, but like if it's like something unique that nobody else does and they're also a local legend at it, I think that also is kind of cool to see in your city or in a different city that this person's famous in.
Is that person you referenced specifically dropping history of Chicago knowledge, or are they making connections about whatever that event is to the history of Chicago? Like,
Both. So
okay,
usually like it was an event downtown, it was like a walk downtown. And so he would say like The Wizard of Oz was, written in Chicago at this locations or Wicked or whatever it was. I couldn't remember what exactly it was written, but it's usually like it starts specific and then it can get broader. I think that's cool.
got it. Okay, that's interesting. So other sports teams, history or historians, any other connections that FIFA, FanFest can make with a city? Like, um, and what could you imagine?
I feel like local legend sort of thing would be kind of cool. Like for basketball, I was in it's like a Harlem park, and there's a bunch of like USA women's basketball players like coming and playing pickup with us. Carmelo Anthony was there once. So maybe having like local people come in to those like fan fests and like talk or play with, or like not play with, but like interact with like the fans would be pretty cool.
I thought you were going one step down when you said local legend, like Pee Wee Kirkland or Earl the Goat, Man Goat, and
Yeah.
New York City street ball legend guys. So you're saying pro levels like a Carmelo or
Yeah, it doesn't
um,
have to be, but um, just like people who are like from that area, I think that'd be pretty cool.
right. Any other ideas in terms of how about other venues? Are there other venues that kind of make sense to um, that FanFest
There
could
is
kind of
one
create?
quick thing. Right now the Knicks are in like round two of the playoffs, and they have what do you call them? The MSG. Like you can go there, pay like $10 for a ticket, and then watch the game on like the live screens inside the stadium. And all like the ticket proceeds go to some sort of like foundation. But like you can go there and like go to like the team store. Sometimes they'll give out like free shirts, food, drinks, that kind of thing. It's like maybe the stadium.
I'm here in San Diego, and once in a while they'll have like a big blow up projector screen to show whatever game or different like organizations put on movies during the summer just at the beach. So maybe if there's like the beach is obviously a big part of San Diego's culture. I know like in Chicago there's that park with like the Cloud Gate, the Bean. So just like outdoor spaces are always fun, kind of create like a lawn backyard kind of vibe.
I always wish
These are all
FanFest kind of came to specific neighborhoods as well, instead of just like the central downtown. Like I wish they had it at a bigger park out here on the south side, or on the north side, like having it in Wrigleyville right in front of the iconic like Cubs Stadium would be awesome just as like a backdrop. Or like I know they do, the one thing about the World Cup that I love is when they show the fan fest. And in Brazil I can remember specifically is like they would always show Copacabana, and then it's like everybody's there, and like when Brazil plays it's like the beach is like jam packed. And I love seeing like the background of Pau de Açúcar, or the city skyline. I like that kind of stuff. Like in Qatar they would show like the city skyline, um, just from a visual standpoint and kind of from like a nerdy geography kind of thing.
What would you envision at Obama's new library, or whatever the formal term for it is?
Yeah, it could be the Obama Center. Yeah, it could be
Obama Center.
that, or I think it'd be cooler if it was like the University of Chicago was in the background, because I think it looks a lot better. Uh, or even like somebody brought up the Cloud Gate, like having it not maybe up there because it's really small, but like maybe down on the lower level would be kind of cool, or in that park somewhere near the fountain. Yeah.
So you can envision a lot of connections. I'm saying, educational institutions, the history of Chicago, with sports celebrities, with sports stadiums, with iconic areas like Copacabana Beach, right? Um, okay, so you could see it extending out more broadly into different parts of
I've
the
also
city. Well,
been to an event that was at an outdoor concert venue space, and that was really cool also.
a FIFA Fan Fest connected one, you mean, or a soccer fan fest
It
one?
was it was when the US men's team was in the World Cup, so I don't know, a handful of years ago. And it was at this venue called The Shell, and it's mostly a concert venue, but they'll also have events there. Like I went to Halloween yoga there one time, but they just had a viewing party. So people brought their like lawn blankets and kind of picnicked, and then they just showed the US men's game.
Following yoga cracks me up. I don't know why.
It
It's
was
such
it
a
was
funny
really fun.
idea.
People were like all dressed up doing yoga. It was pretty fun.
Right. No, yeah, I couldn't help but chuckle a bit on that one. So, um, just out of curiosity, and this is the same list as we just looked at, only in one sheet. When you go, just curious, are there, you know, programming things or events or whatever those are that you think I'd be more willing to pay for that than, no, I expect this to be free? And which one sits on which side of this? Are they all free? Are they all paid? Is some higher value than others?
I can just go through the whole list for me if you want. I think if I'm gonna go watch a live like recording of a podcast, that would be paid, but I would only go to one I'm interested in. Live conversations with influencers, again, that would be paid, but if you're doing it as an accessibility thing to introduce people into whatever the sport is, then it should be free. I think quizzes and trivia should be free because if you want people to participate, you don't want to charge them to do that. Online contests, I also think should be free. Skills demonstrations, I think, again, if you're trying to use them to attract people to the event, they should be free. If you're trying to use them to provide value to people and help educate them more, then it could be paid, but you're only going to get people who are already interested in whatever that thing is. Um, Kind of the same with meet and greets. Like people will pay for a meet and greet, and that will also cause them to come to the event. But if you're really looking to like attract as many people as possible, free is always the best way. And then athlete fan challenges, I think they should be free if you're a spectator because the fan might suck and not be entertaining. And if you're the fan, I think they should be free because you should be like kind of enticed to participate in it and shouldn't necessarily feel like there are stakes. Like if you have to pay for it and you might get a prize if you win, then I think it's a little bit less cool than just like anyone can enter and test your luck.
Anybody agree, disagree? And again, I'm not
I
looking for
completely
consensus. I'm just
agree
good.
with those as well. I also just feel like it often just comes down to personal interest. Like I'm not going to pay for something that I'm not interested in, but the person next to me might be super interested and would pay any amount. So it's kind of hard to get a unanimous decision.
So Grace directionally agrees, but it with the caveat, it depends. Okay. Anyone else agree, disagree? Is
No,
there
My
I
one
answer
thing
is
on this?
similar to,
Oh, sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
no, that's okay. I was just gonna say that my answer is similar to Grace because I'm not super interested in paying for a podcast as much as like I do think I would go and listen to it, but obviously, like I think that's just because that's not really my interest in paying, but I would maybe pay for something else. So I would agree. But I do think it kind of also just depends and it's very subjective towards, people and their interests as well.
I'm curious group reaction to, and maybe I'm misinterpreting you, Thais, so correct me, but what I heard was it depends on the role of what that thing is. If the role of that is to bring a broad audience, like Grace said, there's this whole campaign in Australia to bring a whole generation or cultivate a new generation of fan, then make it free. But if it's something else, higher value or whatever, kind of make it a paid or more exclusive thing. I'm curious how y'all feel about that, or if you're like, hey, no, if it's a fan fest, it just should be free, and that's the deal. I'm just, yeah.
I mean, I think it depends on who's organizing it. Like if it's group of people who aren't like sponsored or anything and they're just kind of trying to run their own like fan fest, but they're paying for like a bunch of stuff, then like maybe. But if it's like these big sponsors like Amex and I think those should just be free. I don't think it should cost anything, but if like a bar is doing it, like a local bar, I'm not gonna be angry if they ask us to pay like $20 for like a drink and access to it. Yeah.
So big sponsors should put the bill for free, which is fine. That's not unreasonable. Any other points of view on this? Then we can move on. Well, one thing that a couple of you mentioned, and maybe we've talked about it enough already. Marcus will WhatsApp me if I didn't. But just in terms of barriers for families, what kind of makes it easier to say yes to attending a fan fest, like as a family, and that could include children. I think Thais mentioned the notion of maybe a parent who needs more accessibility kind of thing. Somebody mentioned, I can't, no, it wasn't on this group. Somebody mentioned there's like a neurodiverse room for kids in a certain fan fest somewhere in San Diego, I think, quieter environment, for example. So I'm just curious, bring in a niece, bring in a nephew, bring in a cousin who's somebody's younger or somebody's older. Like, what do you think about in terms of what makes it easy to say yes to FanFest, or like, don't go to FanFest because it's not good for kids or sort of older
I
folks?
think from my experience, how it's kind of done in Australia, it's knowing specifically which one you're going to go to, because there are with like all World Cups, there are certain areas that are more prone to have, rowdy drunks than others, even though they're kind of all set up the exact same, in terms of like they have seating areas, they're accessible, but so in Melbourne, they just allowed this fan zone to go back ahead because previously it kind of just turned into a riot. Even though it was set up, the exact same as all others had been, it just happened to attract a lot of people and kind of get out of hand pretty quickly.
You a Bulldogs fan?
Nope.
No. Okay. A friend of mine's from Melbourne. He's a Bulldogs fan. So, um, any other thoughts in terms of, kid-friendly environments, things to have or watch out for? Sounds like drunken riots, avoid in certain venues in Australia.
I like when there's a little bit of separation between like an area that is made for kids and an area that's made for grown-up people. Like when you go somewhere and they clearly have an area where there's like kid activities and small chairs and stuff like that. And then an area maybe that's like closer to where they're selling beverages that is somewhat separated. Because as someone who does not have kids, I don't necessarily want to be around a bunch of kids if I'm going to watch a soccer game with my friends. So it's nice if there's like just a little separation where like this is where the grown-ups are and this is where kids and grown-ups are welcome if they choose to like be together.
Question number, you mentioned music, and I'm curious the role of music in a big fan fest or even up to a FIFA fan fest level. Um, Grace mentioned early on that it was a local indie Australian band. It was kind of more organic to the culture and the country, and that felt right. I don't know in Qatar uh, who, if there was a band or what kinds of bands, or just kind of curious the role of music in a soccer fan fest and maybe different levels, like all the way up to FIFA. Do you go big and it's like any pop star? It's like Sweetie. You know, no connection to the Pride community, for example? Or is it just the biggest name on the planet because it's the biggest tournament on the planet? Curious how you think about music it relates to Soccer Fan Fest.
For the Qatar one, there wasn't anyone like super big at the fan festival. I think it was just like a random DJ. So like it wasn't super crazy or anything. But I do remember like at the games, there was much bigger. I don't remember specifically who it was, but there was like bigger artists specifically at the games performing. So that was a lot better, I'd say. But yeah, during the fan festival, there wasn't anyone super great. I think it
Big
was just like a
global
random
artists or big Qatari or Middle East kind of vibe? Like,
for the fan fest. It was no, it was like global, but I don't think he was like a big DJ,
okay, got it.
one that they found. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any thoughts on music? Kind of local, global, somewhere in between?
The
I've been,
German one? Oh, sorry. So
you
go
go,
ahead,
you go.
Tights. Oh,
Okay, I'll be real quick. I went to one that they just had a local DJ who was like, she was like a 12-year-old girl, but there was just music going on. It was so cute, actually. We went and met her after because I was like, we were looking at the screen at the DJ and thinking like, where is this person DJing from? She looks so young, and she was just like inside the fan fest. Um, but during the game, I think there should not be music. Like they should play the game audio.
yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, completely agree. When I was in Germany, they had like the people in Lederhosen come out and they were playing polka or whatever it is called in Germany. And as a person who's coming from a different country, I thought that was cool. I thought it was kind of funny, just to see, like it is a celebration of culture at the end of the day. And if that's part of the culture, like I want to live it. And so it'd be cool for the different games at FanFest if they had, like, say Mexico is playing, I don't know, Poland or something, to have a polka band and a, mariachi, for a little bit would be super cool. And it's the US, to celebrate all the cultures and stuff. Or if you had, I can't think of anything else, but I think it'd be cool to have some of the, to introduce people to native bands from those regions here in the US and see like, hey, this one's from Capo Verde. Like, do you like music from Capo Verde? Like, this is a band from Capo Verde. So it just depends really. But I like to see the local music of that country be played. And I think it'd be really, really cool with the expanded format.
Um, Sorry, Marcus sent me a couple questions. Would you pay for a fan fest to see big artists? Like, is that more of an additional bonus or a trigger for them to pay? Like, sounds like on some levels, this local cultural connection is a value, right? But I'm curious if there's kind of more of an A-list, like, does that change in perception of the band? Like if it's a Bad Bunny or, kind of like global pop icon, does that change
Sabrina Carpenter
everything?
comes out in a soccer ball dress, I will be there. I will pay 50, $100, $250. And if the US plays after, Mexico plays after, I will pay even more to watch that.
Okay. So Sabrina Carpenter, soccer ball. That sounds like more of a Bjork outfit, but okay. Um,
I think like small artists and local music is cool. Like when I was in New Zealand, they had a performance of a haka, which was like obviously a huge part of their culture. So that was like really cool that it was tied in, not just with music, but also just like a really major part of their culture. Um, but for music, yeah, I think small and local is really cool. But if there is a big famous band like Blink 182, for example, is from San Diego, and if we were hosting a World Cup game and Blink 182 was playing at like a fan fest or some sort of fan fest event, then I think people would be down to pay for tickets. But then it does become more of like a concert and less maybe about soccer, but you do get the crossover, and people who would not have been exposed might like stay and watch the game or become more interested because they went for the Blink 182 concert, but they found this like other cool community of soccer fans as well.
Nina, how about you? Would you pay for a A-lister at a fan fest, or
I would
you
for
prefer
sure
this?
pay. I would for sure pay. It's a proper concert at that point. Like you can't expect an actual concert to be free. So the fact that you would be paying to see this A-lister, whoever it is, and then you get to be a part of the fan fest, I think it's like a two in one. You could charge more for what they would charge. In my opinion, you could charge more than like what you would charge for just their concert.
How about you, Neil? You're in New York. You got all these boroughs, a lot of famous people, whether it's Jay-Z from Steve Brooklyn, I can't remember. Um,
I would pay more. I think it, like Constantina said, it's like a two in one sort of thing, and yeah, whoever's hiring these people, it's going to be expensive. It's not going to be cheap. Um, so the price point can make sense as long as it's like pretty reasonable. But I think you can upcharge a little bit given you'll be getting like both experiences. Um, there was this, I think it was like Alicia Keys or something. She came to some sort of like Knicks fan fest sometime in December. She like sang there. But that was like a surprise. No one knew that she was coming. But like if I knew, I feel like some of my friends would pay more to go and see her or like someone else.
I'm going to show you another thing. Can you see this golden ticket option or options? Yeah. So the question is, which one of these benefits would actually make you more likely to attend FanFest in person? Sort of quick pass to avoid entrance and main queues for those Euros and or lines, exclusive 15-minute access to take a photo with something like the World Cup. Maybe it's some other artifact. Maria mentioned the museum in Qatar. Um, Before it opens to the public, a limited edition T-shirt or scarf, available for purchase only to those who check in at the event, and attend the event and register their presence. Or maybe there's some other priceless, and it's not a MasterCard client. I could tell you that is some other priceless experience. What would that be for you? So if you had a golden ticket, which one of these three, or would there be another benefit of some kind that you would think that would attract you? Grace?
I mean, I'm a real sucker for whatever cheapest ticket option there is, and I'm heavily kind of against the price gouging that's kind of going on right now. I do think the only thing I would pay extra for would be like maybe a corporate box or something like that, where it's you've kind of got you're in a different side of the stadium. There's food, there's drinks, things with it. I really don't mind waiting in line, and I'm not really going to spend extra on a ticket when if it comes with merch, when I can kind of go get that merch myself.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Maria?
I would say honestly, maybe something that would like include food, drinks, and like Grace said, like being in like a special area. Like I remember in Qatar, there was a ticket option. I think me and my dad bought it where you could go before the game started into like kind of an exclusive area where they were like serving like nicer food, nicer drinks. And they had like merch in there too. And that was definitely like a big plus. So definitely something that like gives you that option, I would say.
Anyone else?
I wouldn't pay for any of these either.
Is there anything you would pay for? Other kind of priceless experience?
Probably not because I'm a cheapskate. I'm on
Okay,
Grace's team on that one.
that's okay.
I agree. I wouldn't pay anything extra. I would just want to go to the
So
game.
none of these is a value, which is fine. And nothing you could think of that you'd be like, okay, if they did this, that would be sort of meaningful to me in a way.
I think if the ticket to the Fan Fest is really cheap, like if it is $5 or $10, and there's like by getting the ticket, you're entered in a raffle for like improved seats or like to win a box that you can go to a game with all your friends, that is kind of enticing, but only if the ticket to the Fan Fest is probably like $10 or under, because if it's over that, then like it's not really worth the risk because odds are you're not going to win, but maybe for like $5 more you might win this cool thing to like go experience with your friends. I think I might, if the Fan Fest was also cool, I might be interested.
Anyone else? Um, so I'm just curious, if you have to convince, it sounds like you've all been to fan fest, you've been to a number of fan fests, both sports and non-sports, but if you have to convince somebody to go to a fan fest who, or a soccer fan fest who hasn't been to one before, it's kind of like the single sentence that you would use to convince them. Let's start with Hannah.
I'm a big experience person, so honestly, it doesn't take much for someone to be like, it's so fun. And honestly, this kind of takes me back to my thought process when you asked about social media. Um, if I am with someone that's trusted or, one of my friends and they're like, "Oh, I've been, it's so fun, come." I am, likely going to be like, "Oh, well, what do you do?" And there's food, there's drinks, and you get to watch a fun game. Like, okay, count me in. I feel like that I'm very easily swayed with the experience part of it, and it doesn't take much for someone to be like, "No, I've been. It's so much fun. Come with me. Just come see it." Like, even if you don't like it, you don't have to go again. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm very big on why not come try it. But when I say the social media thing, I think it's interesting because it's very easy for me to be like, everything on social media is not always what you see. So I am more trusting someone's word of mouth rather than if you see it online, you're like, yeah, well, I'm sure they're going to make it look great, but is it actually? Is it fun? Is it interactive? Am I actually getting a chance to win, or are only 50 people getting the fun towels that they're posting about? That kind of thing.
Got you. So it's a word of mouth experience that sells you. Tyra, what would you say? Um, what would you say to convince somebody to go there to a soccer fan fest who'd never? What's the one liner like? You got to go to soccer fan fest because.
Because Norway is playing.
So you're tapping into national pride, okay?
Yeah, I would probably definitely tap in mostly on the soccer part of it, like the game, the specific game. Probably that's also me personally, I don't think I would go to a soccer fest with just some random teams. I rather want to go when the big nations are playing or if it's like cool games playing. But also like I think a big part is just like accessibility in the sense of like tickets, like how does it work? Am I just gonna go there because it's free tickets, but I don't know if I get to see or if it's just I have to stand there for like 3 hours. So I feel like I don't know. The one liner would probably be if it's a good game. That was probably like the soccer part of it, honestly.
Yeah, gotcha. Anyone
I
else?
think
Nina? Go
I
ahead.
think if someone said the exact same sentence that Hannah said, and then they added in that it's free, I would be sold like immediately because again, like I said earlier, like you would have nothing to lose. Like what are you're only experiencing experience, like you can only gain. What are you losing? Like okay, time, but then you're still having fun in some aspect. Like whether that's you're getting drinks, you're being out with people. Maybe if you're not an extra, like not you don't like being pe around people and you're an introvert, that's the only issue. But if you said that there's music, there's people, it's there's what else? There are like games and then it's free on top of that, like I'm sold.
Anyone else? One liner? Convince somebody who's never been to soccer fan fest to go to soccer fan fest.
I think if I had to tell someone, I'd be like, don't have to watch, like, come to a place where like the energy um really good. Like there are specific bars that will be for specific teams. Like you'll see the flag or something, on their front, so you can kind of choose which one you go to, and the majority of the bar would be like that team. Um, so I think people who like just don't want to watch it at home might want to be around people, especially during the summer. Summer's really fun because everyone's outside drinking. Usually the doors are open, like people are in the street sometimes. Yeah,
Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because you've mentioned it a number of times throughout this
mhm.
conversation, this idea of energy, whether it's going into the stadium and this rising energy or whatever. But how is the energy of a soccer fan fest different or unique from, I don't know, basketball or football or baseball or Coachella or, well, it's not a fan fest per se, it's a music festival. But do you know what I mean? Like, what's unique
Yeah.
about a soccer fan fest energy? What, you know?
There's just more people. I think the population of soccer fans is just a lot higher than sports like basketball. Um, I don't know, hockey. Like I think soccer is a way more followed sport, and it's like a bunch of different cultures. It's like a similarity in different cultures, so I think it brings more people together than other sports do. Um, the energy, I mean, I couldn't tell you why. Like, it's just what it is. Like, I feel like there's so many people. Like New York City just has a lot of people who have energy, I guess, and like to go out for like happy hour, and then if the game is during that time, they'll. I don't know. I feel like the energy is just there. Like you don't have to worry about that here.
No, you did answer it quite eloquently, I have to say, because I think it's a world population level. It's a lot of different cultures level. Yeah, anybody else have a point of view on that? I'm just kind of curious what's unique about the energy of a soccer fan fest different from anything else you've ever been to.
I think it is different in terms of like soccer fans are just something different. Like the energy you get from going to, say, a game in Germany or a game, like when you're at the game, that translates to a fan fest for the World Cup because it only happens every 4 years. So like if I go to a game in Sao Paulo for Corinthians, like I'm gonna like that is almost the equivalent what I feel like when you're with everybody from your country or from the country that your ancestors came from or and you guys all have the colors on and it's like this collective kind of mass instead of just you by yourself in your house like you would for I don't know for basketball or softball and like yeah you get together on Super Bowl but you don't always know the team or you don't care for the teams that are on the TV whereas like this is your country or your parents' country or your grandparents' country and it's like this unifying thing it's almost like a nationalism thing but I don't think it's like nationalism because I've cheered for let's see, in the last World Cup, like, or two World Cups ago, 2018, Croatia went to the final. I wanted Croatia to win because it was going to be their first World Cup. Like, I'm a huge underdog fan. Like, it would have been so cool to see such a tiny country win the World Cup. So it's like kind of more of like a, I don't know, it's just like hype. I don't know, because you're ready for the World Cup, you know? It's only once every 4 years. And then it just like kind of, you have to wait another 4 years before the big dance comes to your country or wherever again.
These are great additions. It's rare. There's family lineage. There's different cultures like Croatia, making it to the final. Canada made its first World Cup a couple of times ago, just for the record. That was a big moment for me personally. Um, any other thoughts about this unique soccer fan fest energy? Because there's a lot to unpack here. I don't know, it's kind of
I also
interesting.
feel like it's probably the biggest international sport. Like there aren't many other sports that are at this level that I can think of that captivate. Like every 4 years, you have people who haven't played, haven't even thought about soccer, suddenly becoming these fanatics. But you don't really see that happening with other sports outside of maybe the Olympics.
I was going to ask you that. So it's kind of Olympic-y every 4 years, every two, but every four. But it's only one sport. Olympics, a lot of different sports. So I'm just kind of curious. Let's put those two up against each other. So it's quite different from a lot of other sports. It's all these things, but now, okay, now you've got the energy of soccer fan fest, the energy of Olympics fan fest. How do those compare or contrast, or are they different? Like, what's unique about soccer fan fest?
I honestly think that the soccer fan fests are better. Like I don't see that many Olympic fan fests. I don't see, outside of maybe major events, actually having these moments, whereas each game kind of has its own, people coming to watch it. So I do think again, soccer kind of trumps it in that sense.
I don't mean to quite beat the question to death. Anybody else have a point of view on this?
I feel like I agree with Grace. I feel like honestly, World Cup it feels bigger, but it's so much passion in soccer fans and how it's so easy to connect to, like everybody can play soccer, like to some sort, like you can kick a ball. So I feel like it's easy to connect, but also I feel like what makes World Cup so nice is like it's the summer. Everybody's more like happy. You want to be out, you want to hang out with your friends, like late nights. I feel like just also the season has so much to say. Like it's during the summer. You want to sit out, take a beer with your friends, like enjoy the weather and just, yeah, enjoy life, honestly.
I love that association. Probably particularly acute for someone who comes from a Nordic country where it's dark in the winter. So having sun in the summer and endless nights, probably an extra level of connection. Um, Anybody else? That's great. Okay. Um, Last sort of 15-ish minutes, and I'm also saying that out loud for Marcus who's watching. We're shifting into the last section, which previously was the first section, but a lot of this relates back to women's soccer US. And I'm kind of curious, what's the state of the union of women's soccer in the US from your point of view? How would you sort of put its role in culture? It sounds like we just coming off this energy discussion of, World Cup or soccer and everything associated with it. Put that same lens over women's US soccer. Where is it? Is it have that same energy? Does it have those same associations and connections? Is it like, talk to me?
I think it's becoming a huge thing nowadays. You especially see a lot of cities expanding. There are a ton of expansion teams coming soon and are having their inaugural year this year, I'm pretty sure. So it's becoming a huge thing. And talking about social media, they really do utilize social media to talk about their teams. They always post like their player signings and throughout the game, like they're actively on social media, like posting either that's posts or stories, um, like on Instagram. So they are utilizing different platforms, and then what else? Yeah, I just think it's becoming women's pro soccer is a huge thing. And we also have another league. It's not only like pro, I think there's like a semi-pro league as well. That's pretty new. And if you ask like I don't know, like 4 years ago, I feel like it wouldn't be the same as it is today.
Is women's soccer kind of a subset of global soccer, or is it kind of its own thing? And that's open for anyone too. I'm just curious, is it,
I kind of
I
think
don't
it's
know.
its own thing. Like there's some people who are US women's national team fans who, I mean, I guess in the US it's not like a great comparison because the women's team is more often good and the men's team is not as good. So a lot of people are like women's fans and don't necessarily watch the men. Um, but I do think it's different.
Club or country for you? What's your, allegiance, if you will?
My mom's Brazilian, so Brazil. And I mean, we have the Wave and SDFC in San Diego, so obviously got to support them.
Anybody else got a point of view on sort of, is women's soccer in the US kind of its own deal, or is it part of the overall fabric of soccer culture, that energy we talked about before?
I'd definitely say it's kind of its own deal. It's very much the same in Australia. Like just because you watch the Matildas doesn't mean you're going to watch the men's team, and kind of vice versa. Although even though it's like the same sport, the same federations, it's just the women's game is kind of putting a lot more effort into getting people involved. So I don't know if this is just my subconscious biases, but I do feel like there's a lot more kind of events and traction around a lot of the women's games that maybe isn't always seen on the men's side.
So is the separate thing not necessarily a bad thing? It can still be growing and all this kinds of thing, but it's still kind of separate? Or
Yeah,
is
I
it a
mean,
kind
I
of a
think
bad thing? You want it to be accepted or part of mainstream soccer? I'm kind of curious.
I think it's is okay to kind of be its separate thing. Because so a bit of history, like women's soccer, it was banned from being played from 1921 to about 1970-ish. So it's playing a lot of catch up, but that's kind of bringing this innovation around in which we're finding more ways to kind of make it exciting. So I think it's okay to be a separate thing because it doesn't need like it hasn't had the same history as the men's side, and it will that yes, that kind of means it doesn't have to be the same thing.
Any thoughts? Women's soccer in the U.S.
I
Um,
I second Grace. I like that it's separate because I feel like with a lot of sports, it's like, oh, basketball, and then it's like, oh, well, it's women's basketball, and people kind of care less. But because in the US, and it sounds like in Australia too, the women's team is good, then it makes it kind of cooler that it's women's soccer. And I think it kind of does a lot for women's sports to have people think like, oh, well, it's the women's team, so it'll be a good game, or things like that, versus always hearing like, oh, well, it's actually women, like it's softball, not baseball, or it's women's basketball, not the NBA.
so let's run with this kind of an interesting thought, and maybe it goes nowhere. But we talked about this. If we had to bottle this energy of soccer fan fest on the global level, there were all these, whether it's sun and summer associations or international heritage or part of a global community, there was this kind of thing. But if you said, okay, a a U.S. women's soccer fan fest, how is that energy different? If it's its own thing, what do you kind of protect? What do you nurture? What do you cultivate that's uniquely like that feels like US women's soccer to me versus where they're just trying to be like the men or like what do you do that's unique that really feels organic to the sport in this country?
I think it kind of is the inclusiveness of it all. A lot of men's sports very much has like this kind of boys club, where it's, you've had to have been in this since you were a kid and it's been kind of passed down, and it's, it's very, we call it blokey. Whereas women's sports, it's like very acceptable for anyone from any level of kind of understanding and experience within the game to come and just celebrate. And there's not as many, you know, requirements to call yourself a fan.
The thoughts on that, builds, agreements, disagreements. So it's kind of
I agree. I feel like I don't even know how to explain it. Like I feel like in like especially American football, that one's hard to break into properly. Like I feel like everyone's got like 10 years of knowledge and like know like all these players like 50 per team. I always get so lost in it. Like I'm a fan of it, but can't keep up with like a lot of my friends who just have like deep knowledge on it because like their whole family watched it. Like my family doesn't watch American football; they don't like it. But they like all my friends have all this crazy knowledge, and it's hard to break into a sport like that.
any other thoughts about the energy you're trying to capture with US women's soccer fan fest? How about a US women's national team or a FIFA level? Because Maria, you've been at FIFA level, or a number of you have. What is a FIFA US soccer fan fest capture that's unique to the culture of women's soccer?
Honestly, yeah, I totally agree with Grace. I think inclusivity is a big part of it. Like I remember growing up, like the US women's soccer team was kind of on its rise, like specifically during the 2015 World Cup, I think. And like that was kind of the time where I started watching only like US women's soccer games, and like I'd get really into it, and then like I remember like going to school, and like all my friends would be talking about it, and even like people that don't actually watch soccer, but just the fact that it was like becoming more open to everyone, and it was like something that like everyone could be a part of, definitely like inclusivity. So for sure that.
It sounds like you kind of, I shouldn't say branched off, but to some degree, you went lean into that. You're like, yeah, I'm just watching U.S. Women's National Team games now, and I'm kind of living in that world. How do you bring that world to life in a fan fest in the U.S. to make it feel inclusive? And
Honestly, I don't know, maybe the advertising, um, make it like more open to everyone, to the public, to like, on. I think one thing definitely would be advertising towards like younger girls getting into soccer, and like kind of giving them the idea that like it's cool to play soccer as a girl, and like it's a big thing, and it's becoming an even bigger thing. So I definitely say like advertise towards like the younger crowd.
so your 15-year-old self, you would advertise to her.
I also think it's cool. I think someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Maria, that there was like a museum type aspect that had kind of the history of soccer or history of the World Cups and then like history of players. I think if you go up to a US women's national team event, for example, and you're not necessarily a huge fan, you're just like kind of dipping your toe in, it would be cool to have like some information about the history of the team so that you can then learn about it and feel more included, like you kind of know more what's going on and you're not just like this outsider that's checking it out for the first time, but you like kind of know the history of the team and the players a little bit.
That's an interesting idea. It is in and of itself a great idea. I'm just curious, why do you think it's important for people to understand the history or even this, next gen up and coming girl soccer player?
I think maybe I'll answer twofold. So, one, kind of what Neil was mentioning, where with American football, it's really hard to kind of break in as a fan because everyone's automatically trying to challenge your knowledge and trying to like, it's very competitive, like different teams um, always have rivalries and stuff like that. So, as a new fan, being able to just learn a little bit about the team so you feel like it's something when it's a national team, it's like if you're from the US and you go and learn about the US national team, it creates a sense of belonging and like even though you didn't do anything for that team to win, it just that win kind of belongs to you, even if it happened in the past and you're just now learning about it. So it kind of gives you a sense of like pride in the team. Um, and then the second part of your question I forgot, but
No, that was it. It was really why you think that's important. I didn't know whether it was, when you go to Qatar and you see this museum and there's a whole history of football, it's sort of like, yeah, we want to be recognized on that level versus you're just sort of saying, hey, it's important to people know we do have a history that in 96, the US won the women's, Olympic gold medal and, Mia
yeah, I
Hamm
think
and
it applies to
Brandy Chess.
soccer on a bigger scale too. Like if it's the FIFA fan zone instead of the US women's national team event and you're a new soccer fan, it's still cool to go and see like some of the greats and then you feel again like you can be part of the conversation, you know what's going on versus like you're just someone who went to a soccer thing once. Then you're like learning about Pele and you're learning about like Mia Hamm and all these players that everyone in the soccer world knows. And then you kind of like become a baby fan that can then learn and build on that knowledge and like become a bigger fan in the future.
Does this women's, I hope again I'm not beating it to death, does this women's history thing, Do you want to place it alongside, like in the same timeline as Pele and Maradona and Ronaldo and all these characters? Or is like, no, should have its own timeline. Again, is it this separate
I
thing or is
think
it
it
this?
depends on the context. Like if it's again, I'm just using the US women's national team because that's the event I went to. I don't necessarily want to see information about the men's national team because I'm at a women's national team event. And even at the Women's World Cup, they had like Men's World Cup information, which I think was cool, but I don't think it's necessary because it's a women's like championship event. So there are plenty of women who deserve a spotlight for what they've done for the sport. That's just my opinion. But I think there's like plenty of women that we can highlight that people should know about. And it's cool to learn about like the male players who are greats as well, but they have had their spotlight for plenty, like they've had many opportunities to be spotlighted. Yeah.
Well, look, my colleague Marcus says we've covered it all. So you all got here on time, a few minutes early, and I'll get you out of here on time. We'll arrange to get you paid through Trina. Just want to say thank you. Made my job easy today. It's fun to talk about soccer, but you're really thoughtful and worldly and knowledgeable. And I wish you the best of in your other academic career, or we got a graduating or a doctor, I guess, in Neil, and professional soccer players and all sorts of inspiring characters. So thank you all so much for attending today, and we'll take care of you. Yeah, we'll pay your incentives very quickly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Thanks,